Well, good afternoon. I have with me Dee Brown from Express Professionals, Express Pros, or sorry, Express Employment Professionals. So thank you for joining us today, Dee.
Yes.
Uh,
My name is Dee. I'm the Employee Engagement Coordinator at Express Employment Professionals. We are a local job match company, and we help our community connect to long-term permanent jobs.
awesome. And I figure who better to talk about employment skills with our young people to prepare them for the workforce, as well as talking to our educators, and probably even more so for our educators, say, hey, what are the things when you're talking to people, like what are we finding that is lacking? Because you probably talk to a lot of people. So the first question I have for you is, when it comes to talking to whether you're interviewing young people or you're hearing from your employers that you hire out to agencies, what are some of the struggles that you're facing when it comes to young people today?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. We've just really noticed that the younger candidates sometimes don't present as poised. We believe it's kind of due to the lack of like in-person engagement these days. A lot of like texting, just talking over social media, and not a lot of face-to-face interaction. So we actually have been coming across candidates that appear to be timid, but should be a lot more confident because they do have the skills and they are who we're looking for.
Okay, interesting. So one of the suggestions you would say is that, hey, listen, you need to have some confidence in the skills and abilities that you have. Okay. All right. And how do we accentuate those? All right. So let me ask you this. You are coming across people who that you're interviewing or that you're seeing, or you're hearing back from the employers that you're sending either temps or full-time employees to. What are the skills that you're hearing about, either that you're seeing in your interviews or you're hearing about from employers? What are the skills that you keep hearing over and again are, for whatever reason, tend to be the most lacking?
So it's definitely going to be the soft skills. We have so many different generations in the workplace right now, and typically for management level, they're older, and so the expectation is a more faster response, a more spot-on response, and more of like a team player attitude. Whereas as the younger generation is entering into the workforce, they kind of have a mentality of they can do it, by themselves. They're very innovative. They want to figure it out. And I would say soft skills is what we hear back from our clients the most, is just how to navigate those tough conversations with your boss or your teammate, conflict resolution. If they had more of a soft skill with them, they would be able to navigate those things.
Are there any specific soft skills that you would say, like, these are the ones that keep coming up the most?
Yeah, I would say assertiveness is like a really big soft skill that we found that a lot of our younger candidates can lack. We are a job match company, so we need to know up front, are you happy at this job? Is this what you really want to do? And we find that a lot of them maybe don't want to tell us that they don't like the job, or they don't know how to just kind of be firm with their boundaries and what they're looking for. The more firm and the more assertive they can be with us, the better match we can find for them. And then also while at work, a lot of people want to join a job and move up. Everybody wants to be promoted, but we notice that our younger candidates are typically a little more shy with speaking up about those things, and also with their day-to-day duties as well. They need to do better at communicating what works for them. What do they need more training on or not?
Got it. So I have had some employers tell me in previous interviews that sometimes they're just having people even just showing up for the interviews, or even if they get hired, showing up for work, or just even communicating. Are you hearing anything like that? Or what are your employers telling you that, this, when somebody's not working out, what are some of the reasons why they're not working out?
Yeah, it's attendance, to be honest with you. We rarely have a client tell us that they can't train somebody, right? Everybody, if you're able to interview, you're able to get trained in the job. So mostly it's just attendance, and that kind of really sprouts from that whole communication. Communication is so important between the employee and the employer. When that break comes through, that's when attendance issues come. That's when our client calls and they haven't seen John Doe in 2 days. And then we search in our system and we haven't heard from him either. We didn't know he was missing. So the biggest letdown right now is typically going to be the communication. And I personally believe that it's just because historically, when you have to tell your employer you're not going into work, they may ask you questions that may spark anxiety in someone, or maybe it's something so personal and private that they don't want to share, that they just choose to ignore it. And in other areas of our life, we can ignore things and we can burn bridges with people, and we can do that and life goes on, but it just doesn't work like that for your source of income and your livelihood. We kind of have to work on helping our youth flex and understand the importance of these relationships. And also, the more that we know, the more that we can help. It's not, we don't want to know information to hurt them. We want to know to help them.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, looking at the employer as somebody who actually does care and wants to help you, but we can't help you when we don't know what's going on. Okay, that's good. Why? So you started to illustrate this a little bit. You started to get into this as why you think this is part of a problem. Have you heard from employers to say, these aren't working, these people, this person isn't working out, or this person isn't working out, and it's how it's impacting their organization, or hey, we need these types of people because this is how it's impacting an organization. I guess, what are you hearing from that? Like, just like on the, I guess the residual basis of, like, this person, another person, like, why is this not working out? What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's really kind of simple too. We also get a lot of people just don't follow directions. So they can be on site and a manager can just tell them the way to do the job, and that's just, they don't listen. So a lot of it is, we get feedback like, no matter what task we gave them, it could never be completed in the order that we asked. And so, I think a lot of times with the younger generation, it's like, well, I see what needs to get done, I just want to get it done. And sometimes they may forget about the process, and there's always a reason for the process. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're hearing from clients. It's either communication, they don't know how to talk to their boss, or they're in a riffraff with other employees, or it's simply that they just don't listen and follow directions.
Okay, that's really good insight there, what you just shared. And I guess, and I don't know that you have the answer, like, are you able to follow up with some of these people? Like, when it doesn't work out, to follow up, hey, why is it the case? Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out where the disconnect is. I get it. We all have, like, well, I didn't like that place, or just I didn't like the way they were treating me there. And somehow, and I don't want to say all young people are like this, but it is becoming, it seems like a trend. And I don't know if it's a social emotional thing where, like, we are just realizing, like, hey, I don't need to deal with this. Why do you think this is the case though? And, like, what are we lacking that we have not taught? Like, whether we like it or not, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Like, where do you think the disconnect is coming from?
Yeah, I personally would just say it boils down to work ethic and the example that they have had in front of them. Typically, if we have somebody coming in that wants to work with their parent or work in a job that their parent shared with them, they're typically, ready and good to go because they have the parent to mentor them, or their parent already shared with them, versus somebody who, we have some college kids that come in whose parents work in like a corporate job their whole life, and they're now in college and they need to get, on their feet, and they want to go into a warehouse environment. That's a lot different versus what you see mom and dad do and what they talk to you about versus what you're walking to, and even just different personality types, right? Each different industry kind of attracts a different type of personality and type of people. And so I just think it's just all a part of the learning curve as well. They just need some experience as well. I wouldn't necessarily say that the ball is dropped on teaching anything, because when you go into the workforce and when you go into the job, you kind of have to assess those things for yourself and really just pay attention in your training and keep in mind, like, culture fit. I would say that that's like a really important thing right now for young people and employers to consider is, yes, we need talent. And also for the employee, yes, you need a job, but there's just going to be some places where the culture is just not a fit for you. That doesn't mean that that company is a bad place, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they need to find their home. And what that looks like is the style that they like to communicate in. Do they like to be micromanaged or not? Some cultures in office are more micromanaged, whereas others, all of the employees are looked at, the expectation is that you view this as your business and you will make the best decision. So there's just there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I can't say that the ball is being dropped. It's more so an awareness of the individual.
Got it. Got it. All right. So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. Can you provide an example? Because I'm just looking for some specifics, an example or a story you heard where just the way an employee, especially our younger people, but the way I employee just when they came in, it was just a clear and evident lack of career preparedness or just self-awareness. Like, here's a story, like person just, they got the job and they never even show up for the job or whatever. But a story of an example, like I just can't believe that happened. And what can we do to better prepare that person in the future so that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I do. I have a million and one stories I could share. But one story that's just kind of hit top of mind was I partner with a lot of different youth groups and nonprofits, and I had a referral come in that was in a youth group that I had volunteered for before. So I was really excited to help the individual. They came in to interview, and I glanced over and I just saw that the person interviewing them and that individual just didn't seem, their demeanor wasn't in a comfortable way. They were both like a little uncomfortable. And so that person got out of the interview and had to go do their paperwork. And I decided to follow up with the consultant that they were matched with to just get a little bit of feedback. And the consultant let me know he didn't look me in my eye one time through the whole entire interview. And I was like, what? And so now the hiring manager was kind of like, I'm wondering if there's something going on. They kind of took it in the left field, like, is everything okay? Like maybe give him some water. But I felt like he was not being respectful because he would not give me eye contact. So I walked away from that, wondering, why would he do that? I'm like, is he nervous? What's going on? So I approached the person that was interviewing and I just said, hey, I'm so happy to see you here. I'm happy that I got to help you before and now you're actually here to get a job. I got a little bit of feedback and I just wanted to check in with you to make sure everything was okay. I was told that the interview was a little choppy and there was just a huge lack of eye contact. So I just want to make sure that you're okay. And the individual responded to me, Miss D, I'm fine. But I didn't appreciate the way that the guy interviewing me was talking to me. So he was calling him Mr., his last name. And then to the youth participant that came in for a job, that was not being respectful. He wanted to be called his name. He took it as he was calling him older or trying to say something else. And after uncovering something so small, and then he also told me, and also Miss D, he kept calling me that, it was adding so much pressure to me. And then I just got so nervous that every time I looked at him, I didn't even know how to respond. So I had to look around so that when he asked me the questions, I could actually think of an answer. And then he goes, my last job I got, my cousin already worked there. I did not have to interview. That was their first job. And so that's just an example of how so many things can be miscommunicated. The hiring manager thought this person didn't respect them, thought that there was issues. The youth thought, oh, he thinks I'm older than I am. I don't want to give, I don't want an expectation put on me that I'm not. I'm very new to this. Also, they were nervous. And it just was so crazy for me to, from the outside, can see how something so small can be misunderstood if communication isn't there. In that scenario, the person interviewing should have stopped and checked on them and said, hey, maybe we're not off to the right foot. Is something wrong? And then the person interviewing should have said, I'm sorry that I'm a little fidgety today. I'm just a little nervous. It's my first interview. If both parties could have opened the door to communicate, there wouldn't have been such riffraff. And I mean, the youth person was so distraught because he started feeling like he was being grilled because he was being asked questions and being called Mr. Banks, for example. So
whereas that might have been a sign of respect from the person doing the interviewing, right?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so that's just a story that I'll never forget because when I realized what happened, I did nothing but laugh and I was able to bring them together and say, I just need you guys to know that this is what was happening. And they laughed too. And the participant, I saw him take a deep breath and like a sigh of relief because I could tell it was his second time. Could you imagine getting your first job because your cousin hooked you up?
And then
And
you've
now
never
it's time
really
for you to
interviewed.
go get a
Yeah.
job. And now you have to go through this process,
Right.
which you thought you already went through because you thought that's just how you get jobs. But now you walk into an agency and no, you're addressed by, Mr. You're,
Yeah.
wait in our waiting room. It's just a whole different
Sure.
experience.
Sure. So it sounds like to me that in many ways, we really need to be working from an education, a K-12 education, so that our kids are prepared to know what this whole process looks like. If they're not familiar with it, if they've never done it before, it's going to be, I mean, I have done mock interviews with students, and I know you've helped me do some mock interviews with students before, and it's nerve-wracking to begin with when you know what to expect. How much more when you've never done it before? And then the flip side, coaching some people who are doing the interviewing to just help them put people's minds at ease and help kind of them to become aware that, like, for some people this is the first time just we got to help them become more comfortable. So really good really good example. I appreciate that. All right, so flipping, I just have a couple more questions. Communicating to educators, if you were to talk to educators, what would you say to them to try and help them understand the critical nature of what we were just talking about, helping our educators better prepare our kids to graduate high school with these skills, or just knowledge and awareness of these types of things we were just talking about, employability skills, interviewing skills, how important these soft skills are? Like, what would you say to our teachers?
Yeah, I would just say that role playing is so important to helping the students be prepared for what's to come. I don't think it's enough to let them watch videos, go through presentations. I think that they actually need to role play. And I think it's a good time to partner with real employers for the role playing.
Mhm.
Outside of that, soft skills, them understanding the process and everything is important for them to get their life started. They're going to graduate high school. They need to know next steps. And I think that I would say to teachers that we would like to assume that everyone comes from a household where they will be taught and helped. But I think it's time for us to just assume that that's not the case, because we have so many youth that come out and their families could be very well off, but it's just something that's missed for them to review. And we all know how parents can be. They kind of rely on the school system and teachers a little bit to do a lot of the teaching that, should be accompanied by support at home. But I think it's just time to assume that it's not. And so I would just say to all teachers to just go in assuming that they're not going to have any help, and that that's on you to help them be prepared to enter the workforce, or be prepared to go to school and enter into a work study position if they're not ready to just go directly into the workforce.
Awesome. All right. That's really good. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. We don't want to put it all on the teachers, but we just have to, I think I really took what you said is we make the assumption that they have these skills. And I think in reverse, we need to assume that they don't have the skills. We need to see what we can do within education to be preparing them through role playing, through acting, through talking about, through practicing these skills and helping students make these connections. That's really good. All right. So last question for you. Regularly hearing from employers how important a great culture is to a company. From when you hear like these the different things from the technical skills or the employability skills, what would you say the majority of the employers that you work with to try to recruit for, they're looking for stronger technical skills or these employability or soft skills? Which is more important to them?
Honestly, the soft skill is more important to them. I actually had a client tell me I can teach somebody how to do a job. I can't teach them how to be a good person. And that just really sat with me. And even to this day, I think about it and it completely makes sense. Like, if that person is a solid person and they're good and they're aware, you can teach them the skill set. But it's really, really hard to help them develop in this area when they're already lacking the foundational area that they need to get going.
Awesome. Very true. Hey, Dee, I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate all your responses. Thank you for giving to our educators and to our students some of your insights and awareness of these things. And hopefully we can do a good job of taking that and applying that. So thank you on behalf of Express professionals, professional professionals, and thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to stop recording. So thank you.